The executive summary. Today's book, Radical Candor by Kim Scott. We're going to pull out the most important frameworks, the key insights, and the lessons that actually apply to how you lead and build. Like and subscribe if you want this every week. Here is the summary. Most leaders believe that to be kind, you must avoid difficult conversations. Kim Scott, after years leading teams at Google and Apple, discovered the opposite. True kindness in leadership demands direct challenge, delivered with genuine personal care. Ignoring this principle transforms your team's potential into a minefield of unspoken resentments and unaddressed performance gaps. Your most talented individuals will stagnate or depart. Your projects will suffer from a lack of honest critique, and your leadership will be perceived as either weak or tyrannical. This isn't just about feedback. It's about the very fabric of your organizational culture and your ability to foster sustained excellence. By the end of this analysis, you will possess a clear, actionable framework for delivering feedback that accelerates growth, strengthens relationships, and cultivates a high-performance environment where honesty and empathy are not just valued, but expected. This framework, developed by a Silicon Valley executive who has trained countless leaders, has reshaped communication at some of the world's most innovative companies, proving its efficacy in diverse, high-stakes environments. Let us now delve into the core principles that define radical candor. In 2017, Kim Scott, a former executive who led successful teams at Google and Apple, including AdSense, YouTube, and DoubleClick, published Radical Candor: Be a Kick-Ass Boss Without Losing Your Humanity. This book emerged from a critical observation within the leadership landscape: the pervasive struggle to deliver effective feedback. Scott identified a fundamental tension that plagues managers globally. To the desire to be a good person often conflicts with the necessity of being a clear, direct leader. The problem Scott meticulously dissects is the widespread failure to navigate feedback conversations effectively. Leaders frequently fall into one of two damaging extremes. Either they are too nice, avoiding difficult truths to preserve feelings, a tendency Scott terms ruinous empathy, or they're brutally honest without any genuine concern for the individual, which she labels obnoxious aggression. A third, equally detrimental trap is manipulative insincerity, where neither care nor challenge is present, leading to passive-aggressive or disingenuous interactions. All three, Scott argues, erode trust, stifle growth, and ultimately undermine team performance. Radical candor became an immediate landmark in leadership literature because it offered not just a diagnosis, but a brilliantly simple and profoundly effective solution. Scott's framework provides a clear, memorable quadrant model that balances direct challenge with personal care. It fundamentally shifts the paradigm of how leaders approach difficult conversations, moving them from a place of fear and avoidance to one of intentional, growth-oriented engagement. The book's impact has been far-reaching. Executives, startup founders, team leads, HR professionals, and managers across every sector, from tech giants to nonprofits and even military organizations, have embraced its principles. It provides a universal language for feedback, fostering cultures where honesty and empathy are seen not as opposing forces, but as complementary pillars of effective communication and robust team development. Scott's work empowers leaders to forge stronger relationships, cultivate psychological safety, and unlock the full potential of their teams by mastering the art of truthful, caring dialogue. Lesson 1. The Radical Candor Framework. The foundational principle of Kim Scott's work is the Radical Candor Framework itself. It posits that effective feedback resides at the precise intersection of caring personally and challenging directly. This is not merely about being pleasant or being harsh. It is about the simultaneous application of clarity and empathy. Scott argues that the vast majority of feedback interactions fall into one of three unproductive quadrants. Ruinous empathy occurs when a leader cares personally but fails to challenge directly. They are too nice to deliver the difficult truth, leading to a false sense of security for the employee and persistent performance issues. Conversely, obnoxious aggression is when a leader challenges directly but fails to care personally. This is blunt, often cruel feedback that, while clear, alienates the recipient and destroys trust. The third quadrant, manipulative insincerity, is perhaps the most insidious, a complete absence of both personal care and direct challenge, often manifesting as passive-aggressive behavior, gossip, or disingenuous praise. Radical candor, the fourth quadrant, is the sweet spot. It is where you demonstrate genuine concern for the individual's well-being and success, while simultaneously being unequivocally clear and direct about their performance, both positive and negative. Consider the dynamic between Steve Jobs and Johnny Ive. When Jobs, known for his uncompromising standards, told a young Johnny Ive that his initial design for the iMac G4 was too fat, he was undoubtedly challenging directly. Yet, because Jobs had cultivated a deep respect and personal relationship with Ive, built on shared vision and mutual ambition, this direct challenge was not perceived as a personal attack. Instead, it was received as a push for excellence, a belief in Ive's capacity for even greater innovation, ultimately leading to a more refined and iconic product. The personal connection allowed the direct challenge to be heard and acted upon constructively. Reflect on your last few feedback interactions. Did you find yourself leaning towards being nice at the expense of clarity, perhaps avoiding a difficult truth? Or were you blunt without truly demonstrating genuine care for the person on the receiving end? How can you consciously shift your approach to ensure both elements to personal care and direct challenge are present in your next conversation? Lesson 2. Care personally to challenge effectively. The second crucial lesson underscores that building genuine human relationships with your team members is not merely a pleasantry. It is foundational. It is this personal connection that earns you the right to challenge them directly without being perceived as merely a harsh critic or, worse, a jerk. Scott emphasizes that you cannot effectively challenge someone if they do not believe you genuinely have their best interests at heart. Caring personally means investing the time and effort to understand your team members as whole individuals. This extends beyond their professional output to their motivations, their struggles, their aspirations, and even significant aspects of their lives outside of work. It is about seeing them as human beings, not just cogs in a machine. This understanding builds a reservoir of trust, ensuring that when direct feedback is delivered, it is interpreted as a desire to help them grow rather than an attempt to diminish them. General Stanley McChrystal, when leading the Joint Special Operations Command in Iraq, famously exemplified this principle. Operating in an environment of immense pressure and high stakes, McChrystal spent significant time building trust and personal relationships with his subordinates. He engaged with them on a human level, understanding their families, their concerns, and their individual strengths. This deep personal investment ensured that his direct, often demanding challenges and critiques were understood as emanating from a place of shared mission, mutual respect, and a profound personal investment in their success and safety. His team knew he cared, which allowed them to accept and act upon his uncompromising directives. Beyond the formal structure of performance reviews, what intentional actions are you taking this week to genuinely get to know your team members as individuals? Are you asking about their weekend, their passions, their long-term goals, or simply their current challenges? How can you move beyond superficial interactions to build a deeper, more authentic connection? Lesson 3. Challenge directly, immediately, and specifically. The third lesson is a powerful directive. Do not sugarcoat feedback, and crucially, do not delay difficult conversations. To be truly effective, feedback must be delivered clearly, immediately, and with specific examples to ensure it is actionable. Scott asserts that vague or delayed feedback is, in essence, useless. When feedback is vague, the recipient cannot discern precisely what needs to change. When it is delayed, the opportunity for immediate correction is lost, and the behavior or issue often becomes entrenched. People need to understand exactly what they did, the tangible impact it had, and precisely how they can improve. Waiting only allows the problem to fester, potentially causing further damage, and invariably makes the eventual conversation far more difficult and emotionally charged. Direct challenge, delivered promptly, allows for course correction while the context is still fresh. Consider a seasoned pastor observing a new associate pastor consistently exceeding the allotted time for their sermons. Instead of allowing this to continue, causing disruption to the service flow and childcare arrangements, the senior pastor immediately after the service pulled the associate aside. Calmly and directly, he stated, "Your sermon was 10 minutes over today, which pushes back the entire service flow and impacts childcare pickup for many families. Next time, let's aim for 25 minutes, and I would be happy to help you practice pacing and editing your material." This feedback was immediate, specific, and offered a clear path forward, demonstrating both care and direct challenge. Identify one piece of direct, specific, and actionable feedback you have been consciously or unconsciously holding back from a team member. How will you deliver it within the next 24 hours, ensuring that you also clearly communicate your personal care and desire for their growth? Lesson 4. Focus on behavior, not character. The fourth lesson is a critical distinction in feedback delivery. Critique actions and outcomes, never inherent personality traits. Feedback should be about what someone did or said, not who they are. Scott explains that when feedback targets an individual's character to implying they're lazy, disorganized, or incompetent, it triggers a defensive response. People shut down, feeling personally attacked, and become resistant to any message, however well-intentioned. Conversely, when feedback focuses on specific observable behaviors, it becomes much easier for the recipient to understand, accept, and, most importantly, change. This approach keeps the feedback constructive, objective, and growth-oriented, preserving the individual's dignity and fostering an environment of continuous improvement. For instance, instead of a leader telling a team member, "You're disorganized," which is a character judgment, a leader employing radical candor would reframe this. They might say, "When you submitted the report without the required appendix last week, it caused us to miss the deadline for the client presentation. Can we work together to develop a checklist or a process to ensure all components are included next time?" This focuses on a specific action, its measurable impact, and offers a collaborative solution, rather than labeling the individual. Before your next feedback conversation, mentally review any criticisms you intend to deliver. Are they framed around character traits? If so, how can you reframe them into specific, observable behaviors and their tangible impacts? How does this shift in framing alter your approach and anticipated outcome? Lesson 5. Encourage upward feedback. The fifth lesson broadens the scope of radical candor beyond downward feedback. Leaders must actively solicit feedback from their direct reports and demonstrate a genuine openness to hearing it, even when it is critical. This is paramount for building trust and improving one's own leadership. Scott emphasizes that radical candor is not a one-way street. It is a reciprocal dynamic. Leaders who proactively ask for and genuinely listen to feedback from their teams create a psychologically safe environment. In such an environment, everyone feels empowered to speak up, share their perspectives, and contribute to collective improvement, knowing their input is valued and will be considered. This practice not only helps leaders identify their blind spots, but also models the very behavior they expect from their teams, reinforcing a culture of open communication and continuous learning. Consider the example of a CEO who, after a particularly challenging project, sent out an anonymous survey to their entire team. The survey specifically asked for feedback on their own leadership during the project, with questions like, "What could I have done better to support the team?" and "What actions did I take that hindered progress?" The CEO then publicly shared key takeaways from the feedback, acknowledging areas for improvement and outlined specific action steps they would take based on the team's input. This act of vulnerability and accountability significantly boosted team morale and trust. When was the last time you explicitly asked your team for feedback on your own performance, your leadership style, or your decision-making? How will you make this a regular, intentional practice, demonstrating your commitment to continuous personal growth and fostering a truly candid environment? Lesson 6. Praise in public, critique in private. The sixth lesson, while seemingly conventional, is given specific nuance within the radical candor framework. Praise in public to reinforce desired behaviors and motivate the team, while delivering critique in private to allow for more focused, less embarrassing, and ultimately more effective developmental conversations. Scott clarifies that while the core of radical candor is about directness, the delivery of criticism needs careful consideration. Delivering criticism privately respects the individual's dignity, allowing them to process the feedback without feeling shamed or defensive in front of their peers. This private setting facilitates a more open dialogue and a greater likelihood of the feedback being accepted and acted upon. Public praise, conversely, amplifies positive impact. It not only reinforces the specific positive behavior in the individual being praised, but also signals to the entire team what excellence looks like and what behaviors are valued, thereby fostering a culture of recognition and high standards. The mostly caveat acknowledges rare exceptions where public correction might be necessary for safety or immediate team-wide learning. But these are exceptions, not the rule. Imagine a military commander who publicly commend a unit for their exceptional teamwork and strategic execution during a particularly challenging training exercise, highlighting specific instances of collaboration and ingenuity. Later that day, he privately debriefed a specific officer about a tactical error made during the exercise, discussing it as a learning opportunity to refine future decision-making, without undermining the officer's standing in front of their peers. Both actions serve to strengthen the unit's performance and cohesion. Consider your recent interactions with your team. Have you been consistent in praising publicly and delivering critique privately? Are there instances where you might have inadvertently critiqued publicly or praised privately, diminishing the impact of your feedback? Or might you adjust your approach to maximize positive impact and minimize defensiveness in your team? To integrate the principles of radical candor into your leadership practice this week, consider these 3 concrete actions. Move 1. The 15-minute feedback check-in. This week, schedule a dedicated 15-minute, one-on-one conversation with each of your direct reports. Begin by asking 2 open-ended questions. What's going well for you right now? And what's not going so well? After listening attentively, specifically ask, is there any feedback you have for me regarding my leadership or how I can better support you? And finally, is there any feedback I can offer you that would help your growth? Practice active listening, take notes, and resist the urge to immediately defend or This move establishes a reciprocal feedback loop and demonstrates your commitment to both caring personally and challenging directly. Move 2. The see something, say something challenge. Identify one instance this week where you observe a direct report doing something exceptionally well, or conversely, making a clear mistake or exhibiting a suboptimal behavior. Within 24 hours of that observation, deliver specific, candid feedback. If it's positive, praise publicly, highlighting the specific action and its positive impact. If it's a critique, deliver it privately, focusing on a specific behavior, its impact, and a clear path for improvement, ensuring you also explicitly express your personal care and belief in their potential. This move trains your muscle for immediate, specific, and balanced feedback. Move 3. The radical candor self-assessment. Take a moment to reflect honestly on your own prevalent feedback style using the radical candor framework. On a scale of 1 to 10, how well do you typically care personally for your team members? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how effectively do you challenge directly when necessary? Based on your self-assessment, identify which quadrant, ruinous empathy, obnoxious aggression, or manipulative insincerity you most frequently gravitate towards. Commit to one specific, actionable step this week to intentionally shift your behavior towards the radical candor quadrant. For example, if you tend towards ruinous empathy, commit to delivering one difficult truth you've been avoiding. If you lean towards obnoxious aggression, commit to starting your next feedback conversation by explicitly stating your care for the individual. Radical candor is not merely a feedback technique. It is a profound philosophy for cultivating strong, trusting relationships that empower individuals and organizations to achieve their highest potential through honest and empathetic communication. If this deep dive into Kim Scott's radical candor has provided you with valuable insights and actionable strategies for your leadership journey, please consider subscribing to the Executive Summary. Your support allows us to continue delivering these in-depth analyses of the world's most impactful